Support for Destination Michigan is provided by the CMU Bookstore. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, maroon and gold memories, and an official outfitter of Adidas apparel at the Central Michigan University owned and operated CMU Bookstore. Online shopping 7 days a week at cmubookstore.com. On campus at the University Center, and game day locations at Kelly Short Stadium and the John G. Kohalvi Event Center.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew Ozanek and welcome to Destination Michigan. We're coming to you today from beautiful Beaver Island. And you know, being in a place like this really is a great reminder that if you want to take in all of the beauty and majesty that Michigan has to offer, you have to get out on the water. So in this episode today, we're going to be taking you to a few of the places that really exemplify Michiganders' love for its lakes and rivers. So let's not waste any time and take a sneak peek at what we have coming up for you today.
First, we'll tag along with Steve Smith as he heads to the town of Ludington. There, he'll board the SS Badger for a sunset cruise on a piece of floating history. Then, Stephanie Mills takes us up to Petoskey and introduces us to Jason Thalen of Little Bay Boards, makers of these one-of-a-kind wooden stand-up paddleboards. In the town of Gladstone, the Bait and Knock Lure Company and their Swedish Pimple have been a favorite among anglers since 1955. Steve Smith heads over the bridge to visit this amazing UP business. We'll also take you on a tour through the Inland Waterway, a breathtaking 40-mile stretch of natural beauty that cuts its way right through the heart of northern Michigan. And finally, we'll take you to South Haven to find out how these mermaids and mermen made their way into the record books. It's all coming up on this episode of Destination Michigan.
We're setting sail on this episode of Destination Michigan quite literally as Steve Smith boards a piece of American history and heads out into the mighty waters of Lake Michigan.
My name is Jeffrey Curtis. I'm the captain on the Car Ferry Badger. We are taking a shoreline cruise out of Ludington. We're doing this to celebrate our 65th anniversary of this vessel being on Lake Michigan.
Welcome aboard the SS Badger, a National Historic Landmark and the very last coal-fired steamship in North America. At 65, the Grand Lady of the Great Lakes isn't ready for retirement or Social Security. In fact, she's in just as good a shape today as she was when she first set sail in 1953.
Back in the day, Ludington was one of the busiest ports on the Great Lakes because there were 7 ships running in and out of Ludington on a regular basis. It wasn't uncommon to see ships hove to up in the mud on across the way, waiting for a dock to clear out so that they could come in and unload their cars and load new cars and head back out to Wisconsin.
As staunch as a revered matriarch, the Badger weighs in at 6,800 tons. She's 410 feet long, 60 feet wide, and 107 feet tall. Her payload, 180 cars, 8 semi-tractor trailers, and 600 passengers.
Being a historic ship, we have a wheelsman behind me working. We don't have an automatic pilot. There's no button we can push just to steer a straight course, so we keep James working all the time we're underway. We don't have direct control of the engines from the pilot house, so we have to communicate with the engineers with what's called an engine order telegraph.
But tonight's cruise was like the ultimate 50s flashback birthday party.
Staff and passengers were encouraged to dress in early 50s attire. I opted for my WCMU apparel because this is how I dressed back in 1953.
Yup, I set sail on the journey of life a couple months before the Badger hit water. It also was when a love affair with the ship blossomed for Jackie Cleveland.
I was on the Badger the first trip across the lake and I had to come.
That's right, Jackie is still as stunning as she was 65 years ago when the Badger pulled out of port on its maiden voyage.
I took that first trip across the lake. That was awesome. The first trip was a graduation gift. And this trip is a celebration. And it's just awesome to be here. And some of my kids and family members, 3 of my sisters are here with me. So there's 26 in my group and we're having a ball.
As the Badger quickly approaches 70, she steams her way across Lake Michigan from Ludington to Manitowoc, Wisconsin multiple times each day. Her sister ship, the Spartan, has been out of service since 1979. Her parts used to keep the Badger afloat.
I've been on the Spartan, but Badger's my favorite. Probably because it was first trip out and I was on it.
We do things like they did in the 1950s. Our ship handling, we have to use an anchor to make the dock. We don't have a bow thruster or a stern thruster. But it's just a wonderful experience to look at this, to see what it might have been like back in 1950 to go across Lake Michigan.
Maybe it was the romantic ambiance of Big Sauble Light in the distance, or the sound of Lake Michigan lapping at the Badger's hull, or possibly flashing back to an era long past. Whatever the case, I found myself smitten with my new friend Jackie.
I don't think it's changed all that much. Every time I go across, I have fun. Maybe that's what God has planned. And I love it. I thank God that I could be here yet to do this.
The Badger makes its trip across Lake Michigan from early May till about mid-October. You can visit the Lake Michigan Car Ferry website for a complete schedule. You know, over the years here on Destination Michigan, we've been really fortunate to cross paths with some of the most remarkable doers and makers whose love for our state is evident in everything that they do. And that entrepreneurial spirit really defines Jason Phelan, the owner and founder of Little Bay Boards in Petoskey, a company that is redefining the way stand-up paddle boards are made and the mark that they don't leave behind.
The aloneness that you can get, the ambiance that comes around from doing it is definitely something that I don't think I can properly explain in words. The user-friendly, beginner-friendliness of doing it to SUP, you have to stand up. That's all there is to it. It's really easy for any age demographic of people. It's a great way to get away from the home and all the craziness and just relax and get a little exercise and enjoy nature.
Jason's roots run deep in Petoskey. Generations of his family have been born and raised here. Now he has a family of his own and a baby of a different sort. About 5 years ago, he built his first stand-up paddleboard and people quickly took notice.
That was kind of an organic accident. The first board was cool because I'm an artsy person anyway, so I put a lot into it. We used some really nice, beautiful woods, and I've always been fascinated by woods as a finished carpenter and a wood shop worker pretty much my whole life. The board just got attention that I didn't expect. It was cool and it was neat that I built something by hand that was a water vessel, but to have it on top of the car and go to the grocery store and people would be waiting for you to come out to ask about the board, or at a stoplight, people would be honking the horn, "Where'd you get that board?" "Oh, I made it," you know, and then you tell the story and they're like, "Oh, you ever think about selling one?" I said, "No, not really." And then after months of that happening nonstop, my wife finally just looked at me and she's like, "Just build one and sell it." You know, so, all right, we'll try it.
Try they did, and one amazing board just kept leading to the next. Jason credits mentors with guiding him in hours and hours of research and helping him understand the science behind creating these hollow wooden boards from scratch and scraps and staying eco-friendly.
I've always been a firm believer that everything in nature should be utilized the best that it possibly can. We have a responsibility as humans to do something better for the earth with everything that we do. We have tons and tons of scraps that we reuse all the time. We use eco-friendly, compliant resins and glues. I don't believe in foam. We drive really hard to make the most inexpensive real wood board that you can get out there, and we do it to the standards that are just as good as our custom boards, just a little bit different wood with the sustainability of the local forest that I walk through to get it out of, which has been sustainably forested for 110 years.
To see the boards up close is practically breathtaking. Each piece used is unlike any others from size to tone. It is impossible not to admire the sleek craftsmanship and meticulous attention to detail. Each board is customized to order. If you have a vision, he'll help piece it together and walk you through the design process.
I really enjoy working with the customers. There's a lot of talk and emailing and texting back and forth, pictures and whatnot, and get the family involved. I'm really blessed to be in a lot of surprise gifts, I love it. Nobody's ever just a personal rider. Somebody else is going to ride their board, or they're going to have people that are going to come out with them, grandkids included, dogs, all the above.
Jason and his crew make all their boards inside this shop located not far from the shores of Little Traverse Bay. During our visit, he had a teacher from the Detroit area up for the week learning the tricks of the trade to bring back to his students. It's a great learning process for both pro and apprentice.
When I have apprentices in here, it's always nice. When they do things and like something was a little screwed up or something like that, I'll be, all right, well, we're gonna restart. It's not a big deal. This is how we fix these things. This is how we do this. You know how I know how to fix those things? Because I made all those mistakes. I've done all the growing pains with the company. I've worked diligently for years and years and years trying to figure out the best physical, easiest process of being able to do it while making it the lightest and the most artistic and the strongest.
When he's able, Jason makes boards for various causes that get raffled off. He also recently had some local students help make a board, enabling them to hone in on their woodworking skills in the coolest way possible. And it's not just paddle boards they're crafting by hand. Little Bay Boards has also added wooden surfboards and wakeboards to its collection. But there's just something about being in open water on a paddleboard that speaks to so many of us.
The wooden boards added a whole different dimension to nature when you're out there. You realize that you're on the wood that's from the earth, that you're enjoying the earth with. Being hollow wood boards, you hear every wave, you feel it in your feet and through your legs. It vibrates and creates this sensation that some people are a lot better at explaining that than I am.
Jason also tells us that for the most part, all of the wood for the boards are all locally grown. All the boards are made at Petoskey and built to last a lifetime. Michiganders' love for the water has spurred many people like Jason to design products specifically for outdoor fun and recreation. Case in point, Bay de Noc Lure Company in Gladstone has been creating an item since 1955 that is a must-have for any serious angler to have in his or her tackle box. Here's Steve Smith with the story.
We're at the Bay de Noc Lure Company, and we manufacture fishing lures for the Midwest and beyond. Our big seller is the Swedish pimple. It's primarily an ice fishing jig. It's quite widely known, I would say. I mean, most people that fish know what the Swedish pimple is.
Well, we're in Gladstone, Michigan. We've been in business since 1955. We started in Dave and our grandfather's blacksmith shop. I don't know, it just was a hobby at first. They started with a local business that they would buy it and take all the lures that they manufactured, and of course when you do it more lures, you get a little smarter at how to do it. So the lures were not, they manufactured more than Morley Murphy could take. It was a hardware store.
Most Michigan anglers have a Swedish pimple in their tackle box. Fishermen have been hooked on the lures for a long time.
That catches fish. What more can you say? If the lure doesn't get in the water, it doesn't do anything, so you gotta, I guess, catch the fishermen a little bit first.
Its design dates back nearly 200 years. It was brought to America by Swedish immigrants. Bay de Noc Lure Company actually got its start as an import business.
Actually, the Swedish pimple, it was from a kind of a design that they used to use in Sweden years ago, Nestor Perkin, and they used to actually buy some of these and then sell them on the U.S. market. When the market got to be where we couldn't get as many lures as we need from Sweden, and they kind of changed. They changed the design somewhat and then started manufacturing. So actually, we're selling both.
It has a unique V shape on one side with a flat on the other, and as it's jigged through the water, that flat will catch it and it'll divert sideways, so it kind of moves around and slides sideways in kind of like a wounded baitfish manner.
The manufacturing process hasn't changed much in the last 63 years. The company's 11 employees are very attentive to detail. In fact, each of the 450,000 Swedish pimples sold annually are touched multiple times by human hands.
We have a lot of steps that we go through. There's really no changing it. It's real old school. We punch them out with a punch press or with the hammer, and then we trim them with a punch press trimming die, and then they're tumbled in tumbling barrels, and then they're drilled, and after they're drilled, they have to be tumbled again. And then we burnish them, and then from there they're finished either nickel, gold plating, or they're painted with a white pearl or various colors. Yeah, there's an awful lot of work involved in manufacturing the Swedish pimple.
Bay de Noc lures top sales are in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Colorado, and Maine, not to mention Canada and Russia. Not bad for a little shop in Gladstone, whose prized hammer will turn 100 this year.
We're very proud of our product and just the heritage. Our fathers started it, and we're continuing on, and it's not an easy process. So we're competing with the large factories that are really, they've got modern equipment and they're really banging them out, real fast. And we're kind of doing it the old school way and trying to keep quality number one. Make a good lure that the average Joe can go out in the boat or out on the ice and catch a nice walleye or some perch.
My dad actually worked here until the day before he died when he was 88, and he'd always say it was a labor of love, so I guess I'd have to say that also.
A lot of lures have come and gone in the fishing industry where there's great expectations, and it's pretty hard to get one to really stick around for a long time, and the Swedish pimple's been around for a long time.
Anders tells us that they don't do much advertising for the Swedish pimple. The way that they attract customers is by simply creating a lure that catches fish. And for our next story, we're going to be taking you on a tour of northern Michigan's Inland Waterway. Every year, families from across Michigan and beyond descend into this area to take in the natural beauty of this chain of rivers and lakes.
It's the state's longest chain of rivers and lakes. Spanning nearly 40 miles, the Inland Waterway is comprised of the waters of the Pickerel, Crooked, Burt, and Mullet Lakes, strung together by the Crooked, Indian, and Sheboygan rivers. Residents and visitors alike bustle through towns like Odin, Alanson, and Indian River, partaking in all of the preparations necessary to do as little as possible. Nothing more than time spent in the sunshine, making memories that will last a lifetime. The presence of the first people in this area goes back thousands of years. The waterway offered tribes a safer alternative to traveling across the peninsula, bypassing Waugoshant's Point near modern-day Mackinac and its unforgiving straits. Tribes in the area also relied on the abundance of fish and game that called the waterway home. Trout, whitefish, and sturgeon were regularly pulled from the waters, and beaver pelts were always a prized commodity in trading. On the brightest days, it was a resource that would grant them nourishment and economic opportunity, and on the darkest days, it would even act as a theater of war. First between other tribes, and later the French and the British. French fur traders used these waters to transport goods as Mackinac became an ever busier point of trade. In the late 19th century, the railroads made their way to Petoskey. Rail cars filled with vacationers who would be the very genesis of northern Michigan's tourism industry. The waterway route is flanked on all sides by natural beauty at any time of the year. Over 20 nature preserves are peppered throughout the landscape. Odin Island Nature Preserve that rests in the middle of Crooked Lake offers a welcome respite from the road. Crooked Lake is the westernmost lake in the Inland Waterway, and its neighbor just to the east, Pickerel Lake, is the smallest in the chain at a little over 1,000 acres. Rather small in comparison to nearby Burt Lake, which is just over 17,000 acres, making it the fourth largest inland lake in Michigan. Where Crooked Lake meets its river counterpart, you'll find the town of Alanson, a crossroads, if you will, for those out exploring a summer's day in Emmett County. A quaint and quiet town, Alanson is home to W.W. Fairbarns & Sons, a hardware store that, believe it or not, is actually a Michigan historical landmark. Running behind Alanson's storefronts, the Crooked River offers a haven for wildlife like this family of swans, and provides passage for fishermen and pleasure cruisers making their way to the expansive waters of Burt Lake. Burt Lake State Park offers families a camp to set up base for a few days or a few weeks. Plenty of time to make their way to the shore and take in a priceless Michigan sunset. As the sun barrels towards the horizon, Indian River's residents grab some real estate along the beach. And along Veterans Pier, there's a slight increase of water traffic as pontoon boats filled with family members head out on a sunset cruise. With evening waters as calm as this, how could one not take the opportunity to make one more Michigan memory before the sun goes down? Only so much of the Inland Waterway experience can be appreciated from the shoreline. A midday cruise on the Indian River that connects Burt and Mullet Lake has in itself become a northern Michigan tradition. Passing boat captains wave to each other, and children peer over the bows in hopes of spotting a turtle or fish. The homes nestled along Indian River's edge are a combination of the kitsch and the contemporary, each one a little slice of life on the water. Boats of all shapes and sizes, colors and classes are tied to the docks, begging for a chance to be taken out on a cruise. A pass under I-75 brings boaters to the Indian River Spreads, an area of unyielding natural beauty. After Burt Lake comes Mullet Lake, the second largest lake in the chain. And from there it feeds into the Sheboygan River and runs through the town of Sheboygan. At the mouth of the Sheboygan River, you'll travel through the shadow of the USS Mackinac and into the waters of Lake Huron. Traveling this route completed by countless others over the course of millennia, you discovered that the waterway has meant many things to many people. It's birthed family traditions that continue to this day. It also reminds us of the beauty of Michigan and how crucial it is to keep them pristine, so it may be enjoyed by generations for years to come.
And from the Inland Waterway, Steve Smith takes us back to Lake Michigan, where a community has come together to celebrate the Great Lakes with a very unique twist. And it landed them in the Guinness Book of World Records.
There's no shortage of things to see and do in the southwest Michigan beach community of South Haven. But the scenery took on a different complexion in May as hundreds of mermaids came to town.
We're going to go for the Guinness World Records attempt at the largest gathering of people dressed as mermaids. To set the record, we need 300 people.
And that includes not only mermaids, but mermen as well.
My wife really wanted to be a part of this, and she wanted me to join her. So, that's pretty much all it takes. The whole goal is, A, to have fun. It's a whole mermaid weekend.
And just like people, mermaids have their own cultural identity. I mistook mermaid Isel for a scaly unicorn.
My mersona is a narwhal, which are the unicorns of the sea. They, a lot of the girls are fish-based, so they have tails that are scaled. My tail's actually smooth, and the fin looks like a dolphin or a whale. It's silver and spotted, and then my horn is exactly like a narwhal.
And even mermaids pride themselves in their designer apparel.
When you've been around long enough, you can kind of look at other people's tails or like accessories and go, oh, that's a Merbella's top, or that's a Mertailor tail, or that's a Mernation tail. Like they have their signature. Each effects artist has their aesthetic, their look, their style.
Mermaids can't be out of the water for long, and Lake Michigan was a brisk 50-some degrees. So the folks in South Haven brought in North America's tallest fish tank, and with it, a swimming pod of mermaids.
So my name is Hannah Mermaid, and I'm a professional mermaid. I've been doing this for 16 years. So I basically invented a genre and went on to find that my passion was really ignited by working for eco causes, because I saw as I traveled around the world that the oceans were being destroyed by humans. I think it's so awesome that there's now the Freshwater Mermaid Society, and that they're bringing the eco-awareness into the lakes and not just the ocean, and that the mermaid craze is spreading across the country, and so that there's these advocates for beauty, feminine empowerment, and eco-awareness.
A lot of things that we were talking during our eco conference about flushing our medications down the toilet, which is a no-no, making sure that we keep our beaches clean, don't dump your oils or anything into drain systems, because it will actually make its way into our freshwater systems. And just everybody needs to understand that we're the only state that has as much fresh water as we do.
But let's not forget about the weekend's main event.
We're gonna try and break a record. Oh my gosh, I would love to see 400 mermaids in one place. That would be amazing. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I think it's a great event.
So one by one, the mermaids shimmied their way down the South Haven Pier. Would there be enough merpeople to eclipse the old record of 300? Officials painstakingly counted and recounted. Pictures were used to provide Guinness with the documentation they needed. And when it was all said and done, 420 mermaids had amassed, plenty to set a new world record.
I was astonished at the response. We were worried that, it would be very hard to get 300 people to show up in a mermaid costume.
But one of the greatest aspects of the weekend was the willingness and excitement of everyday people to let their hair down like Ariel and swim with the big fish.
Follow your dreams is the most important part, and it doesn't matter what you do on an everyday basis. My everyday job is an engineer. I went to school for 4 years. I have a college degree. Don't let you think because you're smart you can't, go do things that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about mermaids, go get a tail. Go be a mermaid.
And with that, this episode of Destination Michigan comes to a close. Thank you all so much for watching, and from everybody here, we'll see you next time.
Now you can enjoy the Destination Michigan experience anytime, anywhere, online. Just go to pbs.org or download the PBS app to your smartphone or tablet. Search Destination Michigan and relive all of your favorite stories from our beloved Great Lakes state.